Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special edition of the preview of the 139th running of the Kentucky Derby. My name is Cortega999, also known as Carlos, and I'm here with Matt as we're ready to do our Kentucky Derby preview. Welcome once again, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Carlos. It's great to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this race. It's going to very, very evenly matched. A lot of good horses in here, so it's going to be a good race.
It's going to be a good race indeed, as it is every year. We have 20 horses going to the gate here for the mile-and-a-quarter race here, the prestigious Kentucky Derby. This is a $2 million race for the young 3-year-olds. Let's jump right into it, as we're going to take a first look here pretty much at the contenders. Is there a contender you see here that you want to start off with, Matt?
Well, I think it'd be fair to start off with the favorite Orb, who's, by the way, the Daily Racing Form, they've done a tremendous job covering on site there for about a week now, and they're saying, first of all, he's coming into this race fabulous. He's working out great. His gallops are strong. He's full of energy, so that's a positive. He's on a 4-race win streak. He just recently won the Florida Derby, the Fountain of Youth, so he's on a roll. He gets red-hot rider Joel Rosario back aboard. Morning line 7-2. He'll probably go up a little bit more, 4-1, I'd say, but Orb's looking real strong here, and I like him a lot.
Yeah, Orb's an interesting horse. Definitely going in good form with 4 wins under his belt. Joel Rosario gets aboard, even though Velasquez has ridden him his past 2 races in those wins in the Florida Derby and the Fountain of Youth. And looking at Equibase numbers, his numbers are pretty low considered, comparable to the other horses as well. But he's coming in good form, as you said. Rosario has ridden Orb before in his first 5 starts. And an interesting fact here for people who like history, the last horse that went on to win the Kentucky Derby that won the Florida Derby was Big Brown. And the last horse that won the Fountain of Youth that went on to win the Kentucky Derby, we have to go back to 1995, where Thunder Gulch won the Fountain of the Youth and the Kentucky Derby with Mike Smith aboard, and D. Wayne Lucas is the trainer. And speaking of D. Wayne Lucas, he does have a horse. He has 2 horses, I believe, in here. They're long shots, though, really.
Well, yeah, we have number 2, Oxbow, and he was actually beaten by his other horse, Will Take Charge, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Oxbow recently finished 5th, a good ways back in the Arkansas Derby. But Gary Stevens before the race said that this horse doesn't really have an explosion. He just sort of clunks and goes one pace. So although that's okay for a long distance type, that's not really what I'm looking for here. And he's going to have to step it up because he hasn't won since winning the Lecomte at the Fairgrounds in January. Almost winning the Rebel, which was a $600,000 race, very big race, but just came up a head short. But Oxbow's going to have to improve. I see him coming probably being in mid-pack here. Gary Stevens rides, so that's a plus. You got a Hall of Fame rider, and he's just as good as he's ever been. So good luck to Gary and Lucas with Oxbow here, but he's probably going to have to step it up.
Yeah, for some people that don't know, Gary Stevens was, I guess you considered he was retired for a long amount of time. He did work on TV coverage, and then he came out of retirement. He's been riding in Southern California. And what was his last? I don't know if you can remember his last Kentucky Derby mount. I'm sure it's been a long time, of course.
The early 2000s, I would say.
Something like that. And it's just for a lot of people who like old timers, I guess this would be the horse that, you have old folks betting on the Derby for the heck of it. I imagine them betting the 2 because you got the old timers in D. Wayne Lucas and Gary Stevens riding. And let's talk about the other D. Wayne Lucas horse here. As we go down to him, Will Take Charge draws the 17th post position, coming off a win in the Rebel.
Yeah, he's 20-1 on the morning line, and Oxbow is 30-1. So it appears, based on from an odds standpoint, that Will Take Charge is a bit better than Oxbow. He won the Rebel in March. D. Wayne Lucas decided to not run him in a final prep because the timing was a little funky there. He just wanted to train up to the race, and he's doing okay. I think he's doing pretty average. He's not doing terrible, but he's not wowing the clockers there at Churchill Downs either. He's sort of a clunker. He comes from behind. Just barely got up to beat Oxbow there in the shadow of the wire. He likes Oaklawn Park. He won the Smarty Jones and the Rebel there, so that's a track he likes. But again, he's coming from the 17 hole. John Court goes back aboard, but again, he's got to step it up as well. He ran a big number last time. Even if he runs that race, I still think he even has to improve even more, just because he's facing a lot tougher in this spot.
Yeah, John Court's definitely had plenty of experience and will take charge with his 5 mounts aboard, and the nice win there by a head. in the Rebel. Now, speaking of trainers, we know Dwayne Lucas is a Hall of Famer. We're going to look at the guy who has 5 horses in the Kentucky Derby here, Todd Pletcher. And I guess we could start off with one of his horses here in number 3, Revolutionary, who gets aboard will be Calvin Burrell this time.
Yeah, I mean, Javier Castellano, one of the best jockeys in the country, won on him both in the Withers at Aqueduct in February and the Louisiana Derby in the Fairgrounds. That's their big 3-year-old race there at the Fairgrounds. He won by a neck both times. Recently with Maya Lute, who's on this race, a bit of a long shot, but is a live horse in many people's minds. But Revolutionary, he comes from behind. He steadily makes up a lot of ground. He's been favored in all his races, so he's always been very highly regarded. But Castellano jumps off of this horse to ride Normandy Invasion, number 5, who we'll talk about a little later as well. And Calvin Burrell gets aboard for Pletcher and Windstar Farms. And they won a Derby earlier with Super Saver a few years back. So they've had previous success in the Derby. But Revolutionary is not one of my top picks, but I know you like him a lot.
Yeah, I really like Revolutionary. He's coming in good form. He's got 3 straight wins. The only move that concerns me is that Castellano decides to get on Normandy Invasion. He's only ridden Normandy Invasion once, so I guess he must have felt coming out of the Wood Memorial that he made a mistake possibly, or he had it looks in the notes right here for Normandy Invasion, he had a bumped after the break and then he had a good kick. So maybe Castellano, I think, felt like Normandy Invasion probably was the winner in the Wood Memorial, and he feels like out of the 2, Normandy Invasion is the better horse that gives him the opportunity to win the Derby.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a huge thing you look at, and you got to question whether Castellano, obviously he thinks Normandy Invasion's the better horse and the more likely winner of the 2, or else he wouldn't be hopping on him, he'd be staying on Pletcher. And one thing that's really interesting, I thought, one last thing, is that Castellano rides for Pletcher a lot, and to jump off one of his top trainers, the top trainer in the country, and one of his top bosses, that says a lot about Normandy Invasion.
Yeah, it's just Javier Castellano, definitely one of the top riders in the East Coast, and definitely rides a lot for Pletcher. And it's just you're getting 12-1 morning line. I think we'll possibly see that drop as well. I see Normandy Invasion and Revolutionary kind of dropping down in odds, probably towards 6-1. But yeah, I'm really suspicious about that move. He's only ridden the horse once, and he's going to get on board for a second time. He must feel like that's the better horse of the 2. And we could look at the other horses here for Pletcher. He has. We could look at one of his better chances here in the 14. How do you? I don't know how to say this.
Verrazano.
With John Velasquez.
Verrazano. Some people thought he could be the potential Derby favorite. He's undefeated, 4 for 4. Ran a nice race in the Wood Memorial, and he won the Tampa Bay Derby at Tampa Bay Downs before that. Always been a really, really well-regarded horse. He won an allowance race by 16 lengths, a little more than 16 lengths at 1-5, it looks like. So Verrazano, very impressive, but he's by more than ready, and I'm not so sure that he wants to go this far at 1 1/4. I think 1 1/8 is about as far as he wants to go, in my opinion. And he really got a slow pace. He was towards the front. He's a front runner. He runs near the lead or can sit second or third. In all his races, that's what he's done. And he got a very slow pace in the Wood, and that helped him get that distance. But in this race, it's going to be a furlong longer. The pace is going to be faster, and I think that Verrazano may have a more difficult time. Velasquez had a choice between Verrazano and Orb, and he chose Verrazano. But how can you not? He's undefeated. You're riding for the best trainer in the country, and you ride for him all the time. So I don't blame him for hopping on Verrazano here, but I'm a little nervous about the distance, that he may not be able to get that 1 1/4.
Yeah, when it comes to Kentucky Derby, distance is always a question, and seeing Verrazano's running style, he likes to go to the front. There's going to be horses in this race that are going to try to go to the front and try to take it wire to wire, and we know how successful and unsuccessful that can really be. More unsuccessful than successful, I guess you could say. And seeing his running style going to the front, it's going to be interesting. For me, when it comes to Kentucky Derby, I always look for the horses that are not really going to be set up front. I like them to come from behind, and Verrazano's running style is definitely going to be forwardly placed. It's going to be interesting to see how he runs, because because for some reason, I don't picture him getting to the lead. I don't think he's going to be faster than the next horse we're going to talk about here in Golden Sense. The horse coming from the West Coast for Doug O'Neill and Kevin Krieger.
Yeah, Golden Sense, ever since he broke his maiden at Del Mar, there was no secret this horse had talent, and he won by 7 1/4 lengths his first time, and he was very, very fast in doing that. Got beat by Shanghai Bobby in the Champagne, only his second start out, so that was pretty impressive looking at that. And then he won the Delta Jackpot Stakes at Delta Downs in November of 2012 and the Sham Stakes. He came back in the San Felipe, very ranked, wanted to go. He's a very fast horse, and he got in a speed duel early in that race and faded back to 4th and lost by only 2 1/4 lengths. And then he came back to win the Santa Anita Derby over Flashback, who has always been very highly regarded. He's off the Derby trail now with an injury. Flashback also the full brother to Grade 1 winner named Zazu. But Golden Sense, he's by Into Mischief, and Into Mischief is not a proven sire to get a long distance. Into Mischief didn't run that far, so some people question whether this horse can get the distance. But his last race was a very nice race. It had a little bit of a slow time, but he ran a good buyer number, and he's a fast horse. He'll definitely be forwardly placed. If he can get the distance, he has a big chance, but I question, like Verrazano, whether he can get that distance.
Yeah, he's a really fast horse. If for those who have no idea about fractions, if you look at a horse that's going 22 for the opening quarter mile in a mile-plus race and he's still able to hold on, that's just, you don't see that really much often in horse racing. I mean, he's a really fast horse. He flies out there. He ran a 45-4, it looks like, back in the San Felipe, though he did die off to finish 4th. That's the big question, if Golden Sense can handle the distance. That's really been my question for this horse ever since I've seen him run a mile. I've always questioned if he can handle the 1 1/4 distance. I mean, I'm sure he could handle the Preakness since that's a 1.125, but first we have to get through the Kentucky Derby. So we've really pretty much talked about the good contenders. So who are our top picks? Who's your top pick here, man?
Well, my top pick is Orb, the favorite. I just love the way he's coming in. I know he's going to get the distance. He's drawn towards the outside, which means he can probably stay clear of all the traffic trouble. He's going to be probably mid-pack and then make one run there. But he's by Malibu Moon, and I think he's going to get the distance. I think he's going to run another really big race because every race he's getting better and better. He's full of energy in the mornings, and everything is a go for him. It sounds like he's doing great right now. And there are 2 more horses that I really like. Normandy Invasion is one of them. We talked about him, and the other one is named Overanalyze, a Pletcher horse. He's 15-1 on the morning line, and recently won the Arkansas Derby by 4 1/4 lengths. Now, he beat Frack Daddy, who's a long shot in this race, so he's definitely facing better here, but he ran a big race last time, and I expect him to run another big one here today. He's going to get a good stalking trip, and I really like Overanalyze. If there's an upset, he could be the upset at 15-1.
Yeah, Overanalyze is going to get the West Coast rider in Rafael Bejarano, who rode Overanalyze in that Arkansas Derby when he went on to win by 4.5. So Bejarano knows the horse pretty well, good enough considering he won the Arkansas Derby at Oaklawn Park. For me, my top pick, I'm going to go with the 3, Revolutionary. Though the move from Castellano to Burrell is the main concern, I think, Burrell's done it before. We know he's done it before, and we know who he did it with. He did it with Mind That Bird. And looking at his numbers, this is Equibase. He's got really solid numbers in his past 3 races where he's won. And, sometimes the rider can only do so much. It's all the horse, and I think the horse here is set up to be my top pick here in the Derby. I think the stretch and distance is going to help him out greatly, and we'll see what happens there. My second pick, I'm going to go with the 5 as well, Normandy Invasion. Javier Castellano gets aboard, sticks to the horse after only riding it once. I think, looking at it, that he just potentially pick between the 2. He says Normandy Invasion is the better of the 2. So those are our picks here for the 139th running of the Kentucky Derby. Thank you again, Matt, for giving us your analysis and who you really like in this race.
Thank you for having me, Carlos, and I really enjoyed it, and we'll be back again soon, I'm sure, in 2 weeks to cover the Preakness.
Oh yeah, we'll be ready for the Preakness once again. Thank you everybody for watching our Kentucky Derby preview. May your winning tickets be big ones. Take care, everybody.
Good luck.